This is Goals with Soul, the podcast for visionary coaches and entrepreneurs, building your business with inspired action. In alignment with your mission and authentic message, so you can create impact for your soul clients and feel lit up every day. I'm your host, Jo Ingram, married mum of 3 daughters from London and a former ad agency director turned business coach and strategist. In Goals with Soul, we blend revenue generation with energetics, marketing strategies with pranic healing, and ambitious business goals with our soul's desires. If you're looking to build your business with less efforting and more ease, this is the podcast for you. Let's dive in. Welcome to Goals with Soul. I'm Joanna Ingram, and in today's episode, we are going to look at why your messaging may not be working. But it's okay because I'm going to share the ways in which you can completely transform the success of your messaging, specifically so you can attract your most soul-aligned clients, so you can resonate with those people in your audience that really need to hear your message, but most importantly, are also going to take a step forward to start working with you. And if you want to dive into this in even more detail and you haven't yet taken a peek at my on-demand training, jump over to the link joannaingram.link/uplevel and you can access for free the Uplevel Masterclass, which takes you through in detail so many elements of messaging and why you are not succeeding in reaching your ideal client. But today I'm going to dive into 3 very, very specific areas. So keep listening because each of the 3 is equally important. And if you fail to get each one of these included in your marketing and in your business activity, it's really easy to see how it can go wrong. And when we talk about going wrong, let's just be realistic for a minute. When you're in a coaching industry, you're an expert or consultant, you rely on a pipeline and a conversion of leads. It sounds really clinical because these are really people, but these people are your future clients. And when you're working either with a lack of clients or sometimes equally as frustrating, clients that just aren't well aligned with the work that you do and are not lighting you up, it can lead you feeling really despondent about your business. I'm working with 6-figure business owners that feel that way, as well as those who are much newer to the industry. It doesn't discriminate. If you're overworking, over-efforting, trying to overprove, and you're doing all the things and you're not feeling the joy in your business, it's really easy to either burn out or in some cases even burn your business to the ground. And that's why we're here today. We're going to avoid getting into anything critical like that. We're going to get into an elevated messaging mindset. And that's a great place for me to dive into number 1 by first saying, picture a triangle. If you could see me right now, I've got my fingers up making a shape of a triangle because for some reason, this really helps me think it through. So if you picture that triangle and you divide it into 3, where you've got top mini pyramid and then a section below it and then a big base at the bottom, we're going to start at the apex of the triangle, the very, very top. And this is called messaging. Messaging is the vital ingredient because without it, your clients don't really understand who you are, what you do, how you help, how you make the transformation, the way that you work, why they're the right client for you, and so on. They have no reason really to engage with you and importantly to know, like, and trust you unless your messaging is on point. And this is the starting point for anyone when it comes to running a business and you want to do marketing. You have to have something to say. Ultimately, that's your messaging. But messaging is also something more than just having something to say. It's having the right thing to say, having something that feels great to you, but vitally also resonates with those people that you really want to attract, who are going to get the most, the biggest, the best transformation from your business and be your advocates, be those people that go out and recommend you and get the best results and make you feel great. I mean, all the things, right? So messaging up here is about calling in clients who are really the best elevated type of client for you and your business. Now, when I say best clients, or it kind of infers there are worse clients, and I don't actually believe that there are good clients and bad clients any more than you believe good people and bad people. There are shades of grey, there are miscommunications, there are bad decisions and so on. And I think particularly when it comes to coaching, you get this sense that some people are just at the right time to work with you. You know, you've been there yourself, because if you're listening to this podcast, there's a good chance that you've experienced coaching. And I'm sure that in your experience, you've also been that person that has shown up with full, I'm going to get this done, yes, energy. But you may have also shown up at times with less energy and not got the results. Perhaps you even came out of the experience a little bit soured and were like, I don't think it was the best investment. I'm not afraid to say I've made investments that, regret's a strong word, but certainly did not feel thrilled about at the back end of it. And yes, it could be that the investment you made was actually not a good quality product. Absolutely. But I think honestly, sometimes we join containers or coaching programs where others do get fantastic results and yet we don't. And there's something about the energy in which we show up. And the energy in which we said yes to that program may have been not so much a hell yes, more of a, if I don't do this, what on earth's going to happen? And it's a scarcity positioning. We're just scared if we don't do something, anything, then nothing's going to work for us. So we kind of jump into something that appears in front of us around that timeline. But it wasn't that aligned because we weren't in a high vibe energy. So we're making decisions from intuition, from our higher selves, and instead making ego-based decisions from fear. Now, I'm hoping that you really get what I'm saying here, because when it comes to attracting clients, we want to attract those clients that are in that hell yes, high vibe, ready to make a change. Doesn't mean that everything's right, because if they were, they wouldn't be seeking you out as a coach. There are things that they are really stuck on, but they are so ready to make a change. Whereas clients who are lower down that vibrational scale, they are much more attached to the struggle at this point. Now, it can be that when you look into your ideal client, and we're told, aren't we, have a good look. What age are they? Where do they live? What house do they live in? All this stuff. That is just so unrevealing about really whether they're your ideal client. It's kind of hygiene. Sure, we've got to understand a bit about your ideal client. But when it comes to matching with aligned ideal clients, it's also about understanding whether they're ready, whether they are people that are going to really do the work and follow your process and get the results. And of course, those people are fantastic to work with because they're such a joy when they show up on their calls and in their sessions. They're ready and they've done the preparation and they're listening and they're engaging. And as coaches, we have every right to feel amazing about the work that we do. So up here in messaging, it's really, really important. I keep saying up here because I've still got my hands up about making that triangle. I'm talking about the top section of the triangle, which is the very first thing that you consider, and sometimes the only thing that people consider. But I'll come on to that in just a moment. But when we create this messaging, we have to make sure that we are calling in those people who are ready. I call them elevated. And so I call it elevated messaging because it calls to their desires. It calls to people that can see a goal rather than those people that are just stuck seeing the struggle. And we create messaging very specifically to make sure that those are the people we're calling in. So it may not be so much as whether they are, a mid-30-something mum that's struggling with a spirited child. Perhaps there are two mums that fit the bill exactly, but one is really ready to make a change. She's all in. And the other one is too happy to meet her friends for a cappuccino or a glass of wine and bitch about it all day. There are very different people who are ready at different times. Messaging, getting that tone right is absolutely critical. And the interesting thing is that some messaging coaches and copywriters would just have you finish there. If you go and work with them, they will say, right, give me everything about your ideal client. Let me understand about what you do. What's your tone of voice and so on. Right, off we go. Here's emails. Here's a sales page or whatever it is that you've briefed them to write. And sometimes that can be a wonderful piece of work. I'm certainly not suggesting that all messaging coaches or all copywriters can't do a great job. But many of the people I work with find that simply changing up their words doesn't go far enough. And I'll tell you why. Because words, message, has to be expressed. And if you create your messaging, but it never gets out there in any significant way, then have you really improved your messaging? One of the things I always say to my clients is, this is not to be kept in your Gmail inbox. This is not something in your Google Drive. And that's where it lives. Yes, we may have done the work in the Google Drive. We may have done our worksheets and our assignments together and co-worked it. But now it needs to live. It needs to be out there in the world, in your online social places, on your emails, in the way you express yourself on podcasts and on all the places that you can and do show up. And now, if you're not doing that, and this is the second part of the triangle now, the level lower, we've got messaging as number one. Now, number two, going to talk about aligned marketing. Marketing, broadly, is all the places and all the things you do in order to acquire clients, quite simply. But it means being present, and we are so blessed these days because we can go out for free, organically, in places that previous generations of marketers could only dream of. You know, you can put a post out on Instagram right now and have people see it. You could run an ad on Facebook and be in front of thousands of eyeballs by the end of the day. It's a magnificent time. And, you know, I did just mention paid ads, but going back to organic, I could list 5 or 6 places without even having to think very hard about where you could be. And yet here's a question. Are you? And if you're not, why not? And the usual things that come up, and, you know, this is my experience too, is that I'm exhausted. You know, how many places am I supposed to show up? Or, you know, each place is different and the image needs to be different. The number of words needs to alter. Or maybe you feel like I would love to get in a place where I can use my voice more. I love listening to podcasts and so on, but I don't even know how to make a start or to how to get momentum on that. And for me, marketing alignment has become something that is essential that we address. A good example is I work with clients who often show up and get amazing messaging breakthroughs. They're just, you know, sometimes fortunate enough to feel tearful, emotional. We're both crying. They're like, I've got it. This is a massive deal for me. I've finally understood what I'm meant to do and how to express that. And then we find that actually there are very few places that they love showing up. And I want to just take a moment to say that not wanting to be on social media because you're an introvert or not wanting to do it because you don't have time isn't necessarily going to get you there. For there are ways of addressing marketing as someone that doesn't want to show up on social media, certainly. Paid advertising is one of those. Becoming an SEO expert or working with one is another. And there's a wonderful book, I forget the name of the lady that wrote it, it's called Quiet Marketing. And if this is resonating, please do go and take a peek at that because she does a great job at explaining how it can be done. But that said, it is so much easier to use the tools that are in front of us, but in an aligned way. So I'm not going to finish this segment by saying, do all the things, because those days are long gone. I learned from my own burnout experience that trying to do all the things isn't going to get you there. It's just going to tire you out faster. But it is about understanding how you really want to show up and then doing it well, creating mastery over one specific area. For myself, I'm leaning into podcast guesting tremendously now. I've worked out and understood how to pitch myself, how to show up, how to get people to join my mailing list at the end of being a guest. That I'm fortunate enough now to have mastered it enough to teach it to my own clients. It's, for me, super aligned. And I'm finding more and more of my clients are going, well, that's what I'd like to do, actually, rather than be a content creator and a Reels dancer over on Instagram. And that's perfectly valid. The real value here is understanding what is aligned for you in marketing and really starting to work at it and master it rather than spread yourself thin, rather than do things you don't like doing. Once you've got your amazing messaging dialed in, it's really important that you then express it in a way that feels good. Not least as well, because when we go out with depleted energy or a sort of resentful energy in our marketing, it really comes across. Even if the words were scripted earlier and they're great messaging, there's something about putting communication out in bad energy that doesn't attract the outcome that you want. And, you know, as a pranic healer, and as I discuss many times on this show about energy, we're all connected. And if we're all connected by energy and you send out a post on social media or an email in a really low, obligatory kind of energy, is it any wonder that you're not getting the results that you want? Not to say you're always going to be high vibe, but you do need to find places that make you happy. And that's true for online marketing as much as it is true for any other aspect of our lives. Now, let me take you on to number 3. So we started with the first one, messaging. You've got to have elevated messaging. You've got to really know what it is you do in a way that's deeply integrated and aligned with your personality and your experience, all the stuff that I've talked about in the past around brand epics. I won't dive into that in detail now, but of course it is a very core part of the way that I help coaches to express their unique and authentic selves through their messaging. Now, that can only be out and expressed in the world if you master your marketing and get aligned. And then on to number 3, which is also a dependency on really getting the first 2 dialed in. And for that reason, I'm going to take you back just for a second to what the purpose of this is. The purpose is to attract aligned clients. And aligned clients invariably means those elevated clients who are self-starters, they're motivated, they're keen to change, they're excited, they're feeling the energy, they're hell yes. I mean, they're the sorts of clients that certainly most of my clients want to work with, as do I. So here's a question. How can you hope to call those people in if you are not feeling that yourself? And the reality is that sometimes we come to this work from a depleted state where actually we're working with clients who are far from that. I call them misaligned clients. And those are the clients that we tend to overserve. They tend to not want to do the work, or they show up to a call not having prepared, or they might show up late. They might miss a call, miss a payment. The list of ways in which a client can show up as misaligned are endless. And perhaps in your own mind, you're thinking, yeah, I've worked with a few of them. Perhaps I'm even working with some now. And I know that we're not particularly aligned. Another way of knowing they're misaligned is just by the way you feel. If you look at the calendar and you see them coming up at 10 a.m. today and your little heart sinks, sort of energy, chances are they're misaligned. Perhaps you could look into it a little bit harder and say, well, what is it about them that's making me feel that? Is it their negative energy? Is it the fact that I just know that they're going to come with a complaint and a moan, and it's primarily because they didn't do what I suggested they did, and I'm not sure where to take it? They're always looking to me for answers instead of empowering themselves to also get the results. Or perhaps you just naturally want to overserve them, and even though they're very nice people and nice clients, you get off the call with a to-do list longer than the one that the client has. And you're like suddenly going, oh no, I've got to do all these attachments to this email afterwards. Why did I get myself into this again? And this is the sort of energy that I'm going to address in this third part. Because this third part is about energetic alignment, and it's about having boundaries and a way of working within your business that allows you to become that energetic match for those people who you really want to attract. The people that you have called in, you've pictured them in part 1, you understand what they're like in the messaging you're using. In part 2, you're really understanding where they are and how to regularly show up in front of them. And in this third part, you are ready for them. Doors are open. I say in my masterclass about the idea of law of attraction, perhaps you've heard that if you want a relationship, you've got to clear half of the closet. You've got to make space on that side of the bed. No good with a puppy sleeping there. It's like, that's not going to call in your future soulmate. You've got to make it real now. And the truth is, it's the same in your business. If you are cluttering up your closet with misaligned clients, where is the energetic, universal space for these new clients to come into your business? If you are constantly allowing your boundaries to slip and you're over-delivering, you're staying on the line on your coaching calls and sessions, half an hour over schedule, and that isn't what you wanted to do, it wasn't part of the deal, suddenly you're going to be saying to yourself, I am not that empowered person. Then how can I attract those people that are empowered? So the work that I certainly lean into in that third part is to find out what you're available for and actually help that transition so you can become that business owner, that CEO who knows exactly what she's available or not available for. And interestingly, there's like a little loop that goes right back into the top of the triangle here, because now we're thinking about our messaging again. And that empowered messaging that says, I work with people that show up is a very different message to I work with anyone out there want to work with me. It's a completely different energy, let alone message. And when those 3 things transect, that's when you get really aligned with your client attraction. And that's why, as I said at the title of this episode, why your messaging probably isn't working. is not just because you haven't got the words right, but because you haven't got the mix in your marketing that's not aligned, and you haven't got the energetic alignment in your business. So have a little think about those three things. See which of those perhaps are feeling out of alignment. Chances are it's all three, or at least two. It's very, very rare that all of those are in alignment, because if they were, everybody would be in that state where they're consistently attracting soul clients and businesses thriving. But when it does happen, it is absolutely magical. In my own business, when those three things have aligned, my business has made big quantum shifts. Now, I'm not going to say to you that a quantum shift happens and there's no retraction, because that wouldn't be honest. It wouldn't be real. The reality is we make big energetic leaps forward in our lives, in our business, and then we retract. Suddenly self-doubt creeps in, fear of judgment. Who am I to do this? And then we have to work that next leap again. And to be honest with you, that's why I've started to work in longer containers, because I saw one of my clients, not just one actually, but one in particular I'm thinking of at the moment. We came in and she did the first work. Imagine the top of that triangle. We did that messaging piece and she's like, hell yes. Like big emotion, totally feeling it. This is it. This is the big breakthrough. And then I checked in with her, I don't know, like a week or two later. She wasn't in a longer container with me at the time. We'd just worked on that front end piece. And she said, oh, I'm feeling the fear. I can't do it. And obviously we were able to unlock that. But the reality is we all get back into that contraction because it's really, really normal. And this is big work. It's big work to really finally realize who you are in the business, how your whole history has worked towards this one point and now makes perfect sense. And more importantly, too, makes perfect sense to those clients who are attracted to the work that you do and convert into your containers. So doing that work also doesn't mean you get it done in one big bang. It has to be done in a moment followed by integration. That's why I do a lot of activations. It's like we've got to get back into that feeling constantly and raise our vibration, because aligned marketing means feeling aligned, and boundaries have to be held even when we don't want to. And something I thought of the other day, actually I'm going to record an episode just on this, but just to touch on it for a moment. Sometimes we can gift our future self something. When we get this big breakthrough, and I say this to my client that I just described, said, you are gifting your future self this power. You have had a major breakthrough. You can see your vision now. You can understand that you are ready for this next step. You're already next level. So commit yourself to it now, because even when you sort of contract in a couple of weeks or a month's time and you're hiding away and saying, I don't want to do it, who am I to do this? And you're not seeing instantaneous results, but you're having to stay, you're having to keep your boundaries with clients, even though it feels hard, then you have gifted your future self the commitment to keep going, because you already knew that you were going to contract. A client I worked with just this week, actually, she said to me that after our first session, she sacked her worst client who was completely de-energizing her. And that was such a bold, beautiful, courageous move. Came out of the work we did around her boundaries and around what she was available for. And she just could no longer do it. Like yesterday, it felt fine. Now she understands herself better, and it's a hard no. And the beauty is only 2 weeks later, she called in not only two new clients, but two new aligned clients who are hell yes to her brand new program that has her showing up in a completely different energy, putting far less overwork into it and attracting clients who are much more aligned with it. So this is the power of allowing the energetics, the boundaries, to sit with the aligned marketing and the supercharged, elevated messaging. I'm going to let you ponder on this. I hope this has been a good ep and you've got some really good insights into how you can take your next step. Right now, I'm looking for 3 empowered coaches who want to attract their most soul-aligned clients with these 3 elements of aligned client attraction: your soul messaging, your aligned marketing, and your business energetics. If you're curious to know more about how that would look like to work with me, then simply drop me a DM over on Instagram at iamjo.ingram with the word aligned, and I will share all the details. And so to your inspired action week. Take care. Bye now.